Okay, Q&A time. Why don't you guys go ahead if you've got a question, raise your hand. We'll dive into this. I'm super curious. Just by a show of hands, how many people are a little overwhelmed right now? Okay, a few. Not bad. That's all right. Okay, that's so not bad. How many of you learned something new tonight that you would not like have known to do your business this way otherwise? Raise your hand. Okay. So quite a few of you are like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it this way if not for the academy, hopefully, right? Really quickly, before we tackle questions, somebody share with me kind of a takeaway. Like, what do you like about this setup, the first couple of steps that a client has to do with you? Tell me what you like about it. Anybody?
I love all the prep work because it so clarifies what you're going to accomplish in the discovery session. And I think that was something I really learned a lot about because, you know, as I've kind of worked with people, I see how this would make it so much more effective.
Yeah, it makes it more effective for them so you can really truly deliver value. And it really, I think, sets a really good expectation for both you and the client of like what they're going to get out of it and what you need to deliver in order to make them happy, right? So if you're like me, like leading into the session, I was always like so nervous of like, what are they expecting and can I deliver that? And I hope I deliver enough. And just that question of like, what do you hope to get out of this? And I read it and I'm like, oh, well, I can deliver that. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to totally impress them. Like, it just makes things so much more enjoyable, I feel like, and can really take the pressure off. So, yes.
Yeah, I felt that it simplified the system. It just really made it make a lot of sense. And really, for me, since I haven't really even dealt with clients, it really made it seem, I guess, easier to start heading into that direction. I mean, shoot, I was almost ready to sign up on your website there. So.
All right. Hey, that is a takeaway I was not expecting from tonight. No, I get 20 new clients. No. Awesome. Yes. And I'm glad that you are seeing it, even though you haven't helped anybody yet, Trent, because I feel like my biggest fear is I know it's not simple, right? It is once you do it, but if you haven't done it, it can seem a little complicated, but it is also beautiful in design once you see it a couple times, right?
I guess that's what I meant, is that it was a nice structure to certainly the process, and really like that, and really even brought more to light the super problems and everything like that, and really seeing how it ties in with this. So I saw that as well, even though got to really work on a lot of that
Good. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share, Kelsa. I really like having the steps all ironed out. Like you suggest having like a tracking system for like each step the client's on and everything. That really helps me like stay really organized. And then on top of it, I feel like by me taking the time to like thoughtfully think about how I want my client to experience like the whole onboarding process, I feel like they have a better experience as a result of it, because I've like put a lot of thought into that ahead of time. And they have all these like little touch points with me now, like to make sure everything's getting done. And then at the same time that like I'm supporting them through that kind of scary transition into financial coaching. So
yes, so true. Thank you. Yeah. And it's like, I think it's easier for us to think about like, what do I want from the client? But it's equally as important to really ask yourself, like, what's their emotional journey like? And what's this like from their experience? And knowing and trying to observe that helps you to know, I need to step in when it's low so that I can help them and they feel supported. And when they're in their high moments, like to be excited and match that energy, right? Like if they're excited, like I should be excited too. And if I'm not, then that's just awkward, right? So, you know, if you've ever been like really excited about something and you feel like the other person that you want to hire is like not that excited, you're kind of like, well, this is flat. Like that kind of bums me out a little bit, right? So yeah, good. Okay. I'm going to answer a couple questions from the chat and then we'll dive into the hands that are raised. I've got Jacqueline, Deanna, Serenity, Trent, and yes, and that's it for the hands raised. So I'll get to those. And if you've got questions, feel free to raise your hand. So Nicole says, GoDaddy has a smart line for $10 a month that works like a cell phone and it comes to your cell phone. I believe that's Google Voice. I could be wrong, but the business is $10 a month. It's free if you use it for personal use. And again, I just don't know how they know the difference, but whatever, you guys decide what you want to use. I believe that's the same thing. Nicole, go ahead and add to the chat if you're thinking it's something different, but I believe it's the same thing. Deanna says, so the number on your business card should be the business number from Google Voice. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. Definitely. Don't give out your cell phone number. It is a really hard thing to peel back later. And it's weird. Like you'll get calls on like Sunday and it's weird because you'll answer it like hello because you're thinking like who would call a business on a Sunday? So you think it's just, like something you should answer hello to. And then you find it's like somebody who wants to hire you and you just answered it that way. I don't know. It's weird. It's better to just do the Google Voice thing, I think, and include that number on your business card. And then she says, should we not include a business phone number on our business card? Yes, you should definitely include a phone number on your business card. If you aren't going the Google Voice route, and you want to include your cell phone, that's your choice. I just know that it's definitely something that was really hard to retrain later. And then still till this day, you guys, and I have not used my cell phone for my business in probably 7 years. Still till this day, some people that I knew way back when they refer to me, they still refer people to my cell phone. And it's really challenging once you get new systems set up. Like Sherry onboards all of our clients now. Like we've got systems set up for when someone calls our office that they go into our pipeline and that we have systems. I don't have a system on my cell phone, right? So it just kind of causes confusion. And that's literally been 7 years and that's still happening for me. So it's just a really hard transition to make.
So Kelsey, this is Lynn. Can I just ask real quick? That's why my hand was up. So then basically, I was trying to make sure I wasn't getting confused with my personal cell phone number with the cell phone number that you're referring to for your business. So when I get Google Voice, it's going to give me a business number that's going to ring to my cell phone, which I'll know that it's the business number and keep that separate from my personal cell phone.
Yes, it will. When you have your Google Voice and you say forward calls to my cell phone, it'll actually tell you that it's coming from your Google Voice. So you know that it's somebody with your business line that's calling you. So you know when you answer hi, this is Kelsey with Physical Fitness. How can I help you? Right? And you're not just going to say hello, right? It does share, it shows that to you. Does that make sense? And then also, if your dad's calling, to answer it. Sometimes I do that on purpose. I just answer it funny just to be funny. But Brenda, I'm going to have you ask your question. You privately messaged me. I'm going to have you ask it publicly. So if you could raise your hand and we'll have you ask that question. I just think it's good for everybody to hear. Rachel says, how do you provide those T&C if you are taking bookings over the phone during the Q&A? Great question. So if I'm doing it, I will just I'll summarize it. I'll say, so here's I've got some terms and conditions. Here's the big ones. And again, it's no refund policy, the waiver and release, that kind of thing. They don't need to know every word of every one. You can say, would you like me to email these to you or are you okay agreeing to them, kind of thing, right? And honestly, nobody cares. It's literally one of those things where I say, I have some terms and conditions. I can email them to you so you can make sure you read them, but here's the big ones. Are you okay agreeing to them? And everyone says yes. It's not a big deal. And then if you want to email them to them, you can. Jacqueline says, I definitely undercharged when I started. Everyone does, so did I. I plan to continue to increase over time. Good. My 1 year anniversary of starting my business hits about a week. Oh, yay. And I'm raising my discovery session price by $50. Yay. Congratulations. Maybe you should increase it by 75. Same. What is your current price, Jacqueline?
I am currently at 150 for my initial session. I've been there for a while, like several months.
150, and how long is the session?
It's 2 hours. It's a long session.
And how do you feel like they've been going? Do you feel like people have been really happy? Do you feel like you're getting good feedback?
People have been really happy, and I have 100% conversion rate from Q&A to that session. So I know the price is way too low, but I haven't done like tons of Q&As. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
Yeah. So this is amazing. So you have 100% conversion. I just want everyone to hear this. They're going straight right into their session. They're charging you. They're paying you 150.
Yeah. My husband said to me, who's not business minded at all, he's like, you need to keep raising it until you hear no.
It's true. I mean, it is a good rule of thumb that like if you're not hearing no, you're not charging enough. You know.
Yeah.
And I will say oftentimes, no because of price is not the most common reason for no anyway. But I would say, so are you thinking of charging like 200 or are you just going to do like 197 or what are you thinking?
I was going to do 200 is what I was going to do. And I've already like told people I'm raising it to 200. So I feel like I need to honor like people who have committed, but are committing like verbally committing, but are saying they're doing that after like my price raise date of September 21st. So I told them like my price is going up to 200. What would you say?
Are you using Acuity?
Yes.
So one of the things we do when we do a price increase is we will create a coupon code for the difference and we will say you have until this date to use the code to get the current price. So I actually think the fact that you've already planted the seed at 200, I would make it like 247, but I would give them a coupon for the difference.
So you are pushing me.
Yeah, I would.
I like it. Yeah.
Or I think like 229 or something,
Yeah.
But I would go a little higher, but then I would give them a coupon code for the lower price that you told them and say, but it expires on this date.
Okay.
So that way, if they don't book, they know they're going to have to pay the higher amount.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Wait, what'd you say? Sorry.
You could do that all day long. Like that's the one thing is like, you can always offer a discount if you want to, right? When you're high enough to absorb a discount. When you're at rock bottom price, you cannot offer any discounts ever. You can't do a 10% friends and family or 10% because it's my birthday. And so, I'm going to do 10% off on my birthday. Like you can't do that when you're at rock bottom.
Right.
So,
and 150 is like totally not sustainable at all for the amount of work that goes into that first session. So
I totally agree with you. Yeah. Do you ask the question on your feedback form, how much would you pay for this session?
No, I've never thought to ask that.
I would. We did it for a long time. I don't anymore because I don't really care. But at first I did care a lot. And one of the things we got was this session was priceless. People would write that all the time.
Okay.
And I realized that like I needed that validation so I could raise my prices, but now that's not what I need anymore. But at first I would on a feedback form after they've done it, like based on what you know now, how much would you pay for this session?
Okay.
Ask that question.
So after the session, after they've had the session with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Serenity says thanks for the Costco shout out. Let's see. I'm going to read this out loud and I hope it's okay. She posted it to everybody, but I'm going to read it out loud for all the self-paced folks too. But Serenity says, I'm so thankful I chose to be a part of this academy after already going through the Dave Ramsey program. I learned nothing in regards to these steps. I now feel the confidence that I'll have the tools necessary to coach. Yes, I love that. Thank you. I just gave me chills. All right, let's dive into your questions. So we've got Jacqueline, you are up first, my dear.
Okay. So, well, I was going to ask, one question I have here. You have the client journey roadmap and on the side, and you might have said this and I might have missed it right at that second when you said it, but you have something that says something about the 3-touch rule.
Oh, yes. and I didn't say it because we go over this in marketing and stuff too. But I think when you're first starting, there's this feeling of like, am I being a pest? Like, how persistent should I be when I'm reaching out to people? And like, have I bothered them enough? Or, you know, like, are they interested or not interested or whatever? We use the 3-touch rule, which is, I don't know if I made that up or what, but that's what we call it. And it is, the idea is that we will reach out to them 3 times. And after that, on the 3rd call, we will usually say something like, hey, we know you're busy. We really don't want to bother you and we don't want to feel like a pest. So this will be the last call we have or that we do. But we want you to know that we would love to help you. We are here whenever you are ready. And so when you're ready, please reach out to us. We do that because we want them to know the door is open, but also like, we're not going to chase you.
Right.
So now a lot of our people are like on our newsletter, which we send out once a month or some, like they follow us on Facebook. So it's not like we're never touching them. We're just not individually reaching out to them anymore to get them to schedule with us.
Okay. So that could even be somebody who's like, so that's specifically for somebody who's like done your Q&A but has not booked your session?
That's just to schedule the Q&A. So like, let's say a financial advisor says, hey, my client wants you to call them. Here's their name and number. We will call them 3 times.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it literally, someone just posted in Financial Coaches Unite today, I think it was today, that it takes 5 to 8 times for a person to convert. And we have not seen that. Like, honestly, we call 3 times. Usually people schedule within those 3 times. And if they don't, they're never going to, or it's going to be something like, I mean, we've had a lady, like after 5 years, she finally called us and said, I'm ready now. I was like, could you imagine like literally nurturing that for 5 years?
Right.
I feel like our job is to reach out to them. We do it 3 times. From there, they're part of our normal marketing endeavors, which is in a mass way, right? But I'm not going to like keep chasing that one individual, which is our 3-touch rule. But again, when we do that, we'll usually, the very last call or email will be something like, you know, we understand you're busy. We certainly don't want to, pester you. At this point, we just want you to know we're here and we're here to help you whenever you're ready. Here's how you can reach us.
Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So so I have a question for you, like a follow-up question with that. I have one person who was referred to me by a referral partner who like gave me a very strong verbal commitment, yes, but was going on vacation, didn't want to schedule right away, and he just hasn't scheduled yet. How many times would you recommend following up with that person? I mean, my experience with the referral partner referrals is they all book the initial session, you know what I mean? But like, how many times did you follow up with him? Because now it's been like a week since his vacation. I haven't heard anything yet. So
I 3-touch rule. Like I would, so like if
it's still 3-touch.
Yeah. Now I will say that once in a while a client will be like, you know, can you call me back in 2 weeks? And then we call in 2 weeks and we're like, can you call me back in a month? And if they keep doing that, we kind of will. And at some point, you know, Sherry will probably say something like, are you really sure? Like, do I want me to just call you in like 6 months? Like this, you know?
Yeah, okay.
The other thing that we'll do is like reach out to the referral partner and say, just want to let you know, we have called and emailed and that kind of thing. And so we've kind of just let them know the ball's in their court and let them know we're here to help them. And sometimes that can help. The advisor whoever will kind of call and say, hey, come on, you said you were going to do this sort of thing.
Okay.
So we'll do the 3-touch rule before. If they do the quick audit and they say they're going to book the Eureka, but they don't, we do another 3-touch rule.
Okay.
And then also, if they do a quick audit and they don't book the Eureka, once a year, we send an email to those folks.
Okay.
So we kind of keep them in our pipeline. Now, this is easier for us because we have a CRM that we use, right? But so if you can somehow keep track of those, once a year in January, we send out an email because January is very normal for people to have financial goals in January.
Right. Okay.
January, we say it's that time of year. Do you have goals for the year? If you haven't thought about those yet, we'd love to sit down and talk with you about your goals for the year and help you devise some strategies for achieving them. We could do that during the Eureka session. Here's the link to book.
Okay. So that's everyone who's gone through your Q&A but has not actually booked the Eureka session. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Trent.
Okay, I guess I think quite a few of them have been answered, but one I got to thinking about is I know this is being kind of more set up with online wise for coaching. How might, because I'm assuming that for get my betas or just initial people talking to, more than likely it's going to be face to face. How different might this look? I mean, other than me printing out everything.
So the one step that might be different is like the actual meeting format. Otherwise, Trent, I would follow all of it the same. And what I mean by that is a Q&A call should never be done in person. It's 15 or 20 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
One of the things that I know happened to me all the time is I would go to a networking event and you get kind of cornered by somebody, right? And they like start telling you about all their financial problems and everything that's going on, and they want help. And I will say to them, I'll say, I would love to dive deeper into this with you. Let's schedule a time to talk in the next couple of days. Do you have your phone out? Like you can set bookmarks right on your phone, so you can like pull up your quick audit right on your phone and say, let's get you scheduled right now for don't call it quick audit, right? But like for a Q&A call with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And usually what I'll say is something along the lines of, I'd really like to be able to give you my undivided attention. So let's schedule a time to talk about exactly what you have going on, right? And at that time, I will still schedule a call with them. While I'm on the phone with them for the call, I then book their Eureka session. And their Eureka session can be in person. If you're meeting in person, that's totally fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But even if you're meeting in person with somebody, I use my online scheduler. It is like the best thing you'll ever do. Seriously, because they get an email confirmation. It's like very professional. They get a reminder of the call using the scheduling software, all of that. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. And I was thinking probably, if I end up bringing on, I guess beta, but just initial persons, the initial touches might be family, friends, things like that. So it kind of maybe feeling a little bit more in, the initial. So
it feels okay. So there's a whole training video next lesson on beta clients and how to set it up, how to communicate with a beta client that's different from a regular client. Because what it feels like, I think what you're describing, is it feels very formal for like a family member, right?
Right. Yeah.
The goal of a beta client, though, is to test your processes for the benefit of another client. And if you communicate it that way, and if you say, for helping me to test my process, I'm going to do it for free. And in exchange, you're going to give me feedback as we go on what you think, and you're going to give me a testimonial at the end. Their job then is to go through the process in a formal way. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. No, I really did. I think you had posted a video about that before with beta clients. I just really did like the verbiage you were saying when you were ready to accept the beta client. So yeah, I really did appreciate that video.
Yeah. And it is a little formal. And at the same time, keep in mind that all of these steps qualify the client and ensure their commitment level. And it's so hard to set a high standard when it's a family member, right? Like it can be harder to be assertive. So let your processes do that for you so that you don't have to it doesn't have to be quite as awkward with a family member or a friend. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Great question. Let's see. Okay. Crystal's the last one with her hand raised. So you guys better get some hands raised and we can dive into your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes when I use my earbud, you can't hear me. So I actually have two questions, if that's okay.
Nope,
I
not
just
allowed.
came up with something new. Oh, please. Okay, so the first one is because I work retail and my schedule is all over the place. What thoughts do you have for me on how to handle that when I'm trying to schedule clients in that craziness of...
How far out do you know your calendar? at retail?
2.5 to 3 weeks. I
Okay.
get our schedules post on Wednesday for the 3rd week out. But
Okay.
and I know my days off forever unless they change it because I'm on a rotation.
Beautiful.
So
Okay,
it's a 4-week rotation, but it's kind of weird because I'll work 16 days with just 2 days off, and the next 12 days I have 6 days off.
Okay. So in Acuity or most scheduling softwares, I assume, you can either have it be where it's the same schedule every single week, or it literally gives you every day for every month for like the next year, and you can go in there and tell it whether you're available or not that day. So,
Okay.
and you can actually do a combination of both. So you can have it be, let's say you're always off on Mondays and Tuesdays. You can have it be where you're always open on your calendar on Mondays and Tuesdays, but then the other days it's random. You can go in and like 3 weeks out, open up the times that you want it to be open and just keep doing that every so often. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Okay, yeah. And I think that
Keep in mind right now, Crystal, like you're only booking probably a couple weeks, few weeks out anyway.
right.
It's not until you get into a longer term program. And again, it's just not an option that your clients have with you. And that's totally okay. Where like for me, I have clients who literally schedule for 6 months out at a time, and that's okay. But at some point, like that's just not something you can provide. And you're like, hey, we'll just book your next session out each time we meet. And that's okay.
Okay, yeah. And one of the things that I'm kind of, I think, stressing over is because my work schedule is so crazy, is that I worry that I'll book a session on, this day that I'm available, and then they'll send all their work through, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm working all these hours, but I've got to find time to work on the stuff that they sent me. So that's kind of where I'm a little bit stressing over that. So I guess I'll have to
I
just
can
kind of
pretty
work
much
that.
guarantee that it will probably happen. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you that there was like some solution around that, but the only thing you could do is like when someone schedules, you could just tell them like, hey, I know technically, it's due back the day before, but I would really appreciate it if you could get it to me this day because I've got a really busy day that day, and I want to be able to invest the time into reviewing it. Does that make sense?
Right. Kind of the sooner you get it to me, the more time I'll have and the better I'll be prepared. Gotcha.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Speaking of this, I do want to just mention something. We have a 48-hour rule because nobody gets it to you before 48 hours. Nobody. They get it to you within 24 hours when you set a 48-hour rule. So don't set a 24-hour rule because then you'll get it like the day of the session, I promise.
Right.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. Okay. And so my second thing is I got a message from somebody today. I posted some advice on Facebook, and I got a message from somebody that was asking about getting some help for her daughter. Her daughter is 20 years old in college, and she says she's like pretty responsible with money, but she's kind of worried about her, like that she's not planning well enough. And so she's looking for some help with her daughter or for her daughter. So in that situation, my first thought would be, okay, I'm willing to help your daughter, but if I'm going to help your daughter because she is an adult, that has to be between me and her. I will not give you information I'm sharing with your daughter unless she says it's okay. Because if I do that, the daughter's not going to open up.
I would, yes, and I'm so glad you said this. It's really hard because you want to help the daughter, but if the daughter doesn't want help, then honestly, it doesn't matter how much the mother wants it for her, right? So what I would recommend a couple things. One, you're 100% right. Your privacy policy is that you do not communicate with anybody other than the client, so you can't communicate with that mother, even if the mother's paying for it, okay? It's just,
Gotcha.
It's very cut and dry. The other thing is I would do the entire process with the daughter. The daughter needs to do a Q&A call with you. The daughter would schedule the Eureka, all that. You are going to need to qualify the daughter just as if the daughter had reached out to you herself.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
it does. Thank you.
It can be tough to, I have one client in particular, I've worked with him for, I don't know, probably 10 years now. And he always refers, he's a very social guy. So he's just always out talking and mingling and all that. And he just refers so many people to me. And at first I was really nervous because there was just some conversations that I had with some of the referrals. And I was like, I'm not going to work with this person. And I was so nervous to tell him that. And when I explained to him, like, hey, like, I'm picky on who I work with because I know who I can help and who I want to help. And I really need to make sure they want my help. And as soon as I explained that to him, he's like, oh yeah, whatever you got to do, girl, to make sure that you're working with all the best people, I'm just going to keep sending them your way and you figure out who you want to work with. He was totally fine with it. Does that make sense? But it can be like, I feel pressure sometimes of like, I love that client and I want to do right by him, but I also want to have a long-term perspective, which is like, the reality is I can't help everybody no matter how much I want it, no matter how much he wants it. Right?
Right. And I think one thing that I have kind of in my bag of tricks for this lady when I answer her, because I haven't even answered her message yet, is that I have a daughter who is 30 years old, and I've been trying her whole life to get her to listen to me where her finances are concerned. She's 30 this year, and she just now came to me and said, Mom, please help me. So it's like, when it's mom, it's just like, forget about it. And I wouldn't want her daughter to hold back. If she really wants me to help her, it would be like, if she feels like I'm not keeping the confidence because you're mom, then she's not going to open up to me anyway. So it's going to be the same as if you were trying to help.
We used to do like a young adult session, and we kind of do it now, but we only do it for current clients' kids. So if the client wants us to do it for their kids, we will, but we don't do it just for like a random client. But and even if it's a minor, Crystal, the only time the parent is allowed to be there is if the child agrees that the parent can be there. It's ultimately, I say I'm open to it. It doesn't matter to me, but I talk with the client or with the child and say, young adult, whatever, and say, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about this. Do you feel comfortable having your parents there? Or would you rather it be a private conversation? So I don't even just say like, is it okay if your parents are there? Because young adults don't always know how to be assertive, right? And speak their truth. So I say, this is what we're going to be talking about. Do you feel comfortable talking about those things with your parents present, or would you prefer that we have a private conversation about those things? So.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jacqueline had a good idea. She says, oh no, wait, where'd that go? Jacqueline. Oh, wrong one. She says, sometimes I'll say things like, you're going to get some automatic emails from me that I typically send to my clients at this stage of the process. I'd love your feedback on how clear they are and whether it's easy for you to follow. That's for like a beta client. I love that wording. Jacqueline, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Crystal says she's got her calendar open for the next, Jacqueline says to Crystal, gosh, that she has her calendar open for the next 4 weeks only. That's super normal. Like, you don't have to have it done super far out in advance by any means. I don't think that that's the expectation. And in Acuity, there's a setting that says, allow clients to schedule X number of days out and cap it at this length of time. So I think mine's out 365 days, but like you could literally make it be 30 days. So like it doesn't show any availability past 30 days. That's why a scheduling software is amazing, you guys. Seriously, it's so. What do you use Acuity, Jacqueline? You said, yeah. I seriously have a crush on Acuity. Okay, Bobby, you're up.
My question has to do with the beta clients. How many beta clients would you recommend?
I'm going to ask you to start your video because I'm the one that turned it off, which is why you weren't able to start it. I apologize, Bobby.
Thank you very much, Elsa.
I'm sorry. You're like,
thank you very much.
Keeping you in the dark this whole time. I'm so sorry. Did you mess
for real, right?
Shoot, I'm so sorry. Okay, what was your question now? I was so distracted by my error.
It's about beta clients, and how many beta clients would you recommend that we take before we start charging?
I recommend 2 or 3, and I wouldn't worry about that yet. Like I said, we'll dive into beta clients soon.
Okay.
Very, very soon. So in the next 2 weeks, you don't have to worry about it, but I would say 2 or 3. And I always say cap it, because what will happen, their job is to give you feedback and for you to understand your workflow better. And you will likely want to make changes after you meet with them. And what you don't want to do is like meet with 3 people, say, well, I got to make some changes. So now that I made changes, I need to do 3 more beta clients. And then now I know more changes. So I got to make the changes. And now I need 3 more beta clients. And you will be testing for the rest of your life. And you cannot do that.
Okay. Okay.
We are still making changes and little tweaks and little tinkers like to our processes. Not today. Like, we'll change a question on our questionnaire. We'll say, what if we change 1 word on that questionnaire? Like, does it shift the type of responses that we get, right? Like, we are always testing that kind of stuff. And so you want to limit the number of beta clients you do, because otherwise, if you think it's going to somehow be perfected because of a beta client, it won't ever be. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Kim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
I had to put a throat lozenge in, you guys. I was trying to go the whole call without doing it. I can't do it. My throat's killing me, so I'm sorry.
Awesome.
You've been great.
So I actually met with someone today, and with the goal of setting up a 2-hour session.
Okay.
And I didn't really think about doing a call, and so I met with them in person. And of course, it wasn't 20 minutes; it was an hour.
Uh-huh.
And the person was very excited to be working together. And of course, I had no idea what to charge, but it's going to be something. And
did you quote anything?
Yes. And
What did you quote? Tell me. I'm so excited.
I'm too embarrassed.
No, don't. You can't be embarrassed. It's okay. I charged $58 my first time.
Yeah.
What did you charge?
$100.
Yay! Can we all give her a round of applause? Oh my God.
Yeah, and it felt so awkward.
Oh, totally. Oh, for sure.
You know, and she wanted to know my pricing schedule beyond, and I said, well, let's work through this, and then we'll talk about that next. So,
yep. You get that question, you guys, all the time. All the time. And remember, clients are always looking for a way to disqualify themselves from making change and improving, because they've been stuck for so long, okay? And one way that they're trying to disqualify themselves is by knowing that you're too expensive next and they can't afford you, so why even bother taking the first step, okay? Sure. That is why your answer is like, don't worry about that yet. We'll talk about that at the next step. We've got options depending on how much you need, right? Or something along those lines.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So my question, I actually did not, because I hadn't heard the session, didn't really think about getting all of the information ahead of time. And so she's going to bring it. We're going to.
Did you schedule a session with her? Is it already scheduled?
Yes. Yep.
When is it?
A week from today.
Hey, you go, girl.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Okay.
So my question is, I know that some of the information that I'm going to need are bank statements, and it has to do with the divorce settlement. So there's going to be, some big numbers on the statement. And I can't imagine that she would be comfortable if I did ask her for that information, like sending it to me electronically. So how do you get around that?
Yeah.
Asking for really important financial information. Yeah, just shoot me a scan it and.
Yeah. So a few things. Great question. You'll notice that what I ask for are, it's all things that they complete. There's no account numbers. There's no social security numbers. It's not from a bank. It's like a financial worksheet that they fill out the numbers. Does that make sense? Okay. And I do that because at that level, at that stage, they are nervous sharing real documents with you. Okay. Right. Some people are. Some people will send you anything you absolutely want. But anyway, you can use something. There are, I'm totally drawing a blank on the name. Accountants use them to transfer files back and forth. So it's kind of like a Dropbox, but it's more secure than I don't know much about security and technology and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I shouldn't say it's more secure than Dropbox. but I know that there's software out there that specifically accountants use to do file sharing with their clients, and like bookkeepers use it and that kind of thing. So you could definitely use something like that. The other thing is you can have them bring some things like a pay stub. I don't need a pay stub before the session, but I will ask them to have one handy for the session. But then because I'm doing it virtually, they can just share their screen and pull it up on their end. I don't actually need them to pull it up on my end or send me anything.
Sure.
Does that make sense? So if you're meeting in person, you could just say, here's a list of things to bring with you, right?
Oh. Yeah.
For this session with her, I would just, Kim, come up with a few questions that you can email her. Say, hey, before your session, I would love it if you could take some time to answer the questions in this email. Just type your responses and hit reply. That's good enough for now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then maybe, if there is something you need, so I don't know the scenario, but is there something from those documents that you can get from her that she can just type in an email without actually providing with the actual documents? Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
That's why I don't like doing that, like on the first session. So I would either, see if she minds emailing it to you. If she doesn't mind, just do it through email. If she doesn't like that idea, you could look into one of those other services. I don't know what they're called off the top of my head. I'll look them up because I know I've had them saved someplace. I'm just having a brain fart. And then say, like, here's the things that I need. Is there any way you could just email me those numbers or those figures and then bring that documentation to the session, and that'll at least be good in the meantime.
Yep. No, that's fair.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
Do we have any accountants on the call? Usually we have like an accountant or two in the academy. No? I was hoping somebody could tell me what the name of that is.
I'm an accountant, but I think it's pretty much the same thing, like you said, the file sharing software, and that a lot of them have different rules around privacy and confidentiality. So you'll find legal firms have similar ones, but Dropbox. I don't like Dropbox from a security and confidentiality perspective, put it that way.
Did you say, Rachel, you do not like Dropbox for that?
No, not for very private and confidential information, and it's not suitable for legal or accountants from their responsibilities. In Australia, we've got, probably like you guys, very strict terms in regards to the privacy and security of client information.
Okay.
So when I was at a chartered accounting firm, it was very specific about what you could and couldn't share in those Dropboxes.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. There are very specific for accountants. Like I know that there is a name, I just cannot remember it. So I'll put you in the Facebook group, okay? Rachel, I'm going to mute you just because it sounds like there's some background noise. So that might be something or like I said, for this session, it might not be that big of a deal. It's just for future reference kind of thing, if that's something that you want to consider.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, other questions. Anything else in the chat? Jacqueline says she had a client get their prep work within 3 days of booking the session. She was so excited, but that's definitely rare. We have that every once in a while too. Within like 24 hours, you're getting all their prep work back and you're like, this is amazing. Doesn't always happen. It's usually like most people are procrastinators, right? Or the deadline is like, oh, I have to get it done by that date. So they get it done right by that date. They don't like do it a week early. It's just sort of how most of us work, I think. All right, other questions, thoughts? I'm sure Saturday you guys will have lots of questions after you have time to start getting in there on this stuff, right? Working through. So Acuity, I love it. There are some softwares that we use that I'm like, it's good, it serves the purpose, but but man, Acuity, I seriously love it. I highly recommend it. It's one of the, I'm all for bootstrapping things or doing it as inexpensively as possible. And yet the amount of time you will spend scheduling people, sending confirmation emails, sending them emails with prep work, reminding them of their appointments. I promise you that your scheduling software is like one of the best small expenses you can incur right away with your business. Jacqueline, yeah. What's up, my dear?
So you talked about how you ask for their pay stubs during the Eureka session. What kinds of things are you looking at on their pay stub? Like just automatic deductions that maybe they don't really need, that kind of thing?
I have it where I say, like, have this ready just in case I need to look at it.
Yeah.
And that can come into play if it's a really tight budget and we're looking at things and they don't know that and I'll say, well, how much are you contributing to your 401k? And they're like, I don't know. And so we'll want to take a look at it. Because if they're doing like 12%, I'm like, if we did 8%, like you could get out of debt by the end of the year or something, right? Like sometimes they're just doing the minimum and that's not an option. Like they're doing the minimum to get the match. And like if a client's about to go bankrupt, I'll probably have them change that. But if it's like, I'm not the type of person who usually recommend that they stop contributing to not get the match. Like I usually will have them keep doing that.
Yeah.
And I should say we'll just look at other things first, right? Like I'll come back to that if we absolutely need to, but if they're doing like 12%, then I'll be like, hey, can we just take a little bit off that for a while? The other thing is sometimes people have like 401k loans. They don't even know they have it.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I'm working with a client now just as a favor, and what they said they made yearly was such a discrepancy from what they were actually bringing home. And it turned out that both of them had pension loans, and they were big ones. It was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they do have some deductions that coming out like Aflac or whatever. And I'm like, hey, are you using these? And they're like, oh, I forgot I had them. And they've been having them for like 5 years. Right. And I'm like, it's one thing if a client goes to the chiropractor every month, I'm like, sometimes your Aflac can actually pay for itself. Like it can actually be one of those things that like makes you money. But if you're paying for Aflac, but you're not using it or ever submitting a reimbursement or anything, then like, it's just costing you money, So we'll look at that. I look at, for all of my clients, after we actually start and we build out their budget and stuff, I look to see when the Social Security max will be reached, if it's a high income earner, and when the 401k contribution max will be reached. Because that's, for some of our clients, they make enough money that like they hit the Social Security max and the 401k contribution max, and then they have like 2 or 3 months at the end of the year where they have like those deductions are not coming out of their paychecks anymore. So we can make like huge headway in the last quarter of the year, and we want to make sure I'll calculate out like exactly which pay period those deductions will stop coming out. And I will say if there's a Eureka session in August and like they've got a lot of debt and I can see that they're high income earners, and I can say, you're actually going to stop having $1,000 a month come out or $1,000 per paycheck come out here really soon. Let's make the most of that. Like we're about to have a really good opportunity here, kind of thing. Taxes sometimes. So if taxes are like, if they owe the IRS every year and they're on a payment plan, then, and I'm like, hey, so have you fixed that? Like, is your withholding better? And they're like, I don't know. I'll take a look at it. I think that's it. Sure,
that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Other questions? Anybody? Who's excited?
Hey, Kelsa, I just had a comment.
Yeah.
About the pay stubs. In the little bit of coaching I did for volunteer work, when I went through this lady's pay stub, so many light bulbs went off about everything she could actually track in a pay stub. And before that, she actually had, I have no interest in my pay stub. I don't care what's in it. But after I went through with her, it was like, oh my gosh, now I know exactly what's coming out, know how to calculate it. And it got her actually pretty excited. So you get a lot of information out of a pay stub, that's for sure.
It's very true, yeah. Especially just from an educational standpoint, like they're very intimidated sometimes by their pay stub, so they don't look at it. You're right. The other thing I've seen is like they have 2 direct deposits set up. So what you're seeing is like their direct deposit to their checking account, and so they're telling you their take-home pay, but they have $500 a paycheck going to some random savings account or something, and you're like,
Right.
Where's that money going? Or what are you doing with that? And like, it's not part of their budget, but yet it could be. Like, it's definitely like something. And they'll be like, oh, well, yeah, but I spend that all the time. And it's like, yeah, you spend it on the stuff that you put on your budget. So we need to add that $500 in here. Like, you've got it, you know, for us to work with kind of thing.
Yeah.
That happened too. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we've got Trent is excited. Who's excited to build their first steps for their client journey? Yes. Good. I can't wait to see it. So practice with your super buddy. That quick audit, you know, I feel like I could do it in 15 minutes and it's, you know, I could do it with my eyes closed kind of thing, but it was not always that easy. Okay. It was clunky at first, felt really weird. I promise you one thing that you will all likely feel. A client, you're going to ask them, so what challenge are you experiencing right now with your money that you want to solve? And they're going to tell you what it is. And guess what each of you are going to want to do? You're going to want to solve it. You're going to want to give them all the answers. And you're going to want to like bestow all this knowledge onto them and just impress them with your financial prowess, right? Like, I know that that's what you're going to want to do, but you can't, okay? Not if you truly want to serve them well, and not if you really want to make sure you're giving them advice that works for them. You don't know enough. You only know what they're telling you in that moment. You don't have any proof. You don't know any numbers. There's a lot more to it than probably whatever statement just came out of their mouth, right? So, but it will be a very natural thing. I promise you, and I want you to share in the group when you do a quick audit and you find yourself like, oh my God, I'm totally coaching this person right now. Crap, how do I rein it back in? You got to share because it's going to happen to you at least once, okay? All right, any questions before we wrap up? Okay, no call, no lesson next week because we're going to be building all this and it's a lot, right? We got Acuity and email confirmations and prep work and post-delivery and like designing your discovery session. It's a ton. We got your first impressions you guys have to build, but it'll all be worth it, okay? So keep the motivation. You guys, I think this is the best academy we've ever had, by the way, just so you guys know. I really think that. Michael, Jill, and I are all talking about like the caliber of you guys, and we're pretty excited about it. So keep the energy high. I know it'll be a little overwhelming in the next 2 weeks. Ask for help often, okay? So if you find yourself spending an hour on something, you need to ask for help. You need to stop and just say, okay, somebody stop me and tell me what I'm missing, because we can probably solve it pretty quickly and save you some time. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm super excited. I will see you guys on Saturday morning because I'll be on the call on Saturday morning, okay? Have a wonderful night. Thank you for bearing with me with my voice. I appreciate it. So,
thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.